Hello, DSHF in absentia. How's it going out there in Coronaville? I thought that, well, I'm out here working out. I thought it would be a nice idea to make a video to inspire others to pick up the swords and get some workout too. I'm hoping we can get maybe a series going, back and forth Q&As, whatever, just sharing what you're doing, you know. Supporting one another, yeah? So today what I'm going to talk about are the basic sword work warm-ups we do in class. I'm going to break down some of the theory and thinking behind them. I'm going to show everyone exactly, you know, the little things we look for. Hopefully this will be useful not only to the folks who haven't been coming that long, that might not be able to remember everything, but even for the folks who've been with us for a long time, thinking about all the little nuances of this, these different exercises, why we do them, and the little tweaks you can make to make sure you're really doing them correctly and getting everything you can out of them. After I do that, I'm gonna show for each of the routines, some variations you can do, because you're probably getting bored of some of these things at home. So I'll show you some little tweaks you can make for a lot of these drills to kind of branch out and do different kinds of solo work. All right, so we're going to start with our basic winding exercises. Everything I do now, I'm going to do assuming you don't have a lot of room to move around in, so you're fairly restricted in one place. So you'll notice my feet are about shoulder width apart. The feet are even. I'm not in a fencing stance or a fighting stance. They're even like this. And what we're going to start with is our lower hanging to upper hanging. Now I'm going to do a few slow and talk about some of the geometry. So I'm going to get little hip turns in, right? I'm going to get hip turns in even though I'm not doing, you know, steps, big passing steps. And if you have room, feel free to do the steps, but they're not necessary. So I'm going to start down here next to my lower left hip. I am going to, keeping my point center line, I'm going to wind it up into the right. You'll see I'm doing that with the hip turn. I'm then going to let it float down and shoot up to the left. I'm getting a hip turn to power this, and you'll notice about the form, I'm not just bringing it up like this as quick as I can. I'm putting myself, as we talk about in class a lot, in the shadow of the sword, right? Under the shadow of the blade. I want to make sure that this is a twitch reaction I'm training myself to do. I want to make sure that my twitch reaction isn't insufficient for the kind of warding motions that we want to use these for, right? If someone's throwing a cut at me, I want to make sure the thing that's in my pocket that I'm automatically reaching for is actually going to protect me. I also want to make sure as I'm doing these that they're not overextended. I want to make sure that the thing I go for out of instinct isn't going to throw me off balance, right? So I don't want these big giant motions. I want to make sure I'm launching just up here, right? From the side. Now I'm not doing these all full out yet. That's just to talk about kind of the form and the geometry. Now when I'm actually doing these exercises, I want it to be a really fast, aggressive motion. I want to go as hard and fast as I can, and I want to make sure that while I'm doing that, I'm in perfect balance the entire time. So if I do this really fast, I want to make sure that it's not like getting me off balance, right? So the way I'm doing that is I'm sitting in my fighting platform, my fighting position. My hips aren't back, they're not forward, they're up. Core is passively engaged, head high, shoulders down, And as I'm doing these, I am actively flexing my core and my abs to help with this balance, right? So I can keep a nice tight package going on here, even as my sword is doing all these large things, okay? So I'm gonna do a few of these fast. So down here. So I'm exploding up, I'm floating down, and I'm setting a rhythm with that, right? And I'm letting myself get this big, full tense, and then relax it down so I can explode up again on the other side. you'll notice that as I'm going to my left side, since I'm right-handed, I am thinking about my form. I'm making sure my elbow isn't sticking way out. I'm trying to bring, as I do this, I'm trying to bring that elbow back in that position that we like here, right? As opposed to here, which breaks the wrist and puts you in all kinds of weird positions. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Might be fucking it up, but that's what I'm going for. Okay, so explosive, fast, in balance, so that's not throwing me off to do this. And yeah, think about you're really warding, parrying a big ass strike that's coming in toward you. Try and make sure you're not getting hit, make sure your hands are safe, make sure that point is staying online. All right, so we have winding up across the body. The next thing we do is winding down. So now if we start in our ox position, we are now going to do our explosive wind, our warding wind down across the body, up, down. Right? So when I bring this all the way down to my ox position, I'm defending this lower area. There's also often something done to defend the hands. Variation from this that I'll often do is assuming that I'm bringing it down to Meyer's Gerade Versetzung position, which is also a lower hanging, right? We have a lower hanging here in the flug-like position. This is also a lower hanging, right? Because the hands are down, the blade is up. So that's another thing I can drill, is being up high and warding across. And that, again, Gerade Versetzung, or in English, that straight parry position that Meyer likes. And I like too. Okay, so that's the basics. Float low, explode high across, float low, explode high across. Some variations. One you can do is, instead of starting from a low hanging or upper hanging and exploding across, you can instead start in a long point position. And this can either be in feet shoulder width apart, or you can be in one of your fencing stances, either right or left foot forward. I would advise whichever one feels more natural to you. I like my right foot forward. And be in a long point. And from this long point now, explode up. You can do the same thing, not in the fencing position, but more in that workout position. So it's a faster parry because you're not moving all the way across. It doesn't require a step when you're fencing. It's also harder to generate force and energy from it. So working to, instead of exploding all the way up here, to get something that'll get there fast and strong and have a good enough structure to protect you when it gets there is another good one. And again, I'm flexing all the core, thighs are flexed, butt is flexed, shoulders. And when I'm exploding into this position, I'm flexing the arms and the shoulders too so that it can be strong, right? So it can not only get there fast, but can absorb a big hit. And then you let it relax. And that flex relaxation is also one of the habits you're trying to train into your hands and your arms. That ability to get there hard and fast, deliver a lot of force, and then release so that you can, when you're actually fighting, more easily flow into your next defense, your next attack, blah, 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 blah. What else? More variations. Normally, when we do these, when we do any warm-up, we default to winds that are close to the body. I think it's a good training philosophy. It's just something that I personally like. Over the years, I've seen a lot of people that default whenever they're doing something to reach to their full extension. And I think that can lead to fighting that's always, reaching out far, that you don't have good balance. You're always like leaning. What Pseudo Dobringer calls, like, he's kind of talking shit about bad fencers, and he talks about it. It's funny to watch them. It looks like they're, you know, with arms outstretched, like chasing after a rabbit, trying to catch a rabbit. So that's not what we want. We want to be nice and balanced, in control. And when our default is close to us, that makes extension a choice, right? So as I'm doing this wind up, I can choose to have it extend out, right? So this is the default that we work on. And in the moment of the fight, I can then choose to extend it, right? Now training that extension is also important. We just don't want it to be the main thing we train. So that's the first variation you can do on any of these drills, is when you do your wind to the next hanging, instead of bringing it tight, you can bring it out as if you are landing a thrust while winding. And again, that difference on extension, I'll do it this way so you can see it, is the difference between this and this, right? You can even bring it farther out, right? You can play with that, do those different things. You can also integrate an extension after the wind. Like that, and then just flow through the rest of the drill. And building off that second intention after the wind, you can use any of these windings as setups for cuts that you like to work on. So one that I frequently do at home is, I'll be, you know, in my flug, in my lower hanger, winding high, and then when I get to this position, instead of immediately floating down to do the other side, I will maybe cut across the Twerhow, and then float it, etc., like that. So experiment with different follow-ups. As we wind into these positions, they're then platforms to launch other motions. So either, you know, winds, defense, attack, whatever. So think about that. I think that's most of it. Yeah, I think that's it for winds. I'm going to make some more. Hopefully post them all at the same time, but we'll see. The kid might come out at any moment and take this free time away from me. But yeah, again, if you have any questions, thoughts, versions that you're doing that you want to share with the group, or even just videos of you doing really basic shit, just going through the stuff, I think it's really good to put it online. You can share progress with the group. We can all encourage each other to be working out. And it also, yeah, can let you share insights or ask questions about form, whatever. Also, I mentioned on the Discord channel, I swung by the gym and grabbed a bunch of fetters. If you are a member with us and you don't have a fetter at home to train with during the lockdown, hit me up and we'll get one to you. We'll get a little fetter delivery. Yeah. All right, guys. Stay safe, stay sane. Bye-bye.